Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome in here to a little edition of, hey, quiet down there, of Kurt Magoosh and the Slaughterhouse Sports here. I'm going to do a little video tonight on, you know what I'm going to do a video on? I'm going to do it on my man Baker Mayfield. I'm going to analyze. We got Baker and we got Deshaun Watson, and we're going to talk about where Baker Mayfield could possibly end up here on this free agent market in this class. It's going to be pretty fascinating as this kind of plays out. So, one, was Baker Mayfield classy in issuing his goodbye to the Cleveland Browns? Like, was it the right thing to do? I had a friend today argue with me that, it was inappropriate of Baker Mayfield, that there was nothing official and he should have just stood by Cleveland. But I understood Baker, being threatened by them talking to Deshaun Watson. So clearly they're not all in with Baker Mayfield, but he is kind of tanking his trade value now because, he's issuing that he wants to get out of there. So it's a marriage now that, put it this way, there's no coming back here for Cleveland and Baker Mayfield after the letter that he wrote yesterday. So what are going to be the best destinations? And by the time this video goes up, Baker Mayfield could end up being an Indianapolis Colt. And let's analyze Baker in Indianapolis. I mean, the one thing for Baker Mayfield in Indianapolis is that they're not very loyal to quarterbacks. I mean, they had Phillip Rivers come in there, I believe, after Andrew Luck. They jettisoned him. He ended up retiring. And then Carson Wentz, Chris Ballard ended up getting his guy. Wentz had a very low interception total. I know that they lost to Jacksonville, but still, now the Colts, pretty much stopped with Carson Wentz. And it doesn't make sense because Frank Reich banged the table for Carson Wentz. And yet, the Indianapolis Colts still did not grant the wish. They still did not grant the wish of Carson Wentz, and they did not see that project through. So it's a weird holding pattern with the Colts. They got to stick to a quarterback here, or they're going to consistently be in no man's land. So I look at the Colts, and who's a better option? Is it Garoppolo or is it Baker Mayfield? Garoppolo's more consistent. Garoppolo will throw less interceptions. You have a better chance to win maybe next year and for the following years with Jimmy, but Jimmy's been hurt. I mean, he's hurt his ACL. He's also 32, where Baker Mayfield's 26 years old. So you can really build your program around Baker Mayfield. Now, Baker Mayfield also got hurt. Baker Mayfield's on the shorter end, and Baker Mayfield is more erratic and does throw interceptions. So the Colts, they are looking for Jimmy Garoppolo. The good news that I've heard for the Colts is that Jimmy Garoppolo, it seems like not a lot of teams are interested in Jimmy G, which is kind of puzzling considering he's a quarterback that is won at such a high clip, Jimmy Garoppolo. People consider Jimmy Garoppolo like a Mark Sanchez, where the team is winning despite his quarterbacking. They look to the defense. They look to the running game. They look to Kyle Shanahan scheming things away from Jimmy Garoppolo, which I kind of don't really agree with because I think that Garoppolo's had, several clutch throws. I think third down, Jimmy G's money. Is very accurate in the middle of the field. I think the Colts have a really good problem if you're choosing between Mayfield and you're choosing Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that both can win at a pretty high clip. You have Jonathan Taylor. You do have a good team around you. I even think if they ran it back with Wentz that they would have had a chance as well. It was very puzzling that they got this guy Carson Wentz, and then Frank Reich didn't allow Wentz to be aggressive. Even if Wentz throws interceptions, he was totally totally playing with like one hand tied behind his back by the coaching staff, and they didn't allow Wentz to accentuate his abilities and his playmaking skills. So it was a puzzling move all around, but you look at Baker in Indianapolis, and that does happen to make sense. Another move that would make sense theoretically are two stops in the South, and that's the New Orleans Saints with Pete Carmichael Jr., Dennis Allen. They're going through a transition in ownership. Baker Mayfield looked up to Drew Brees. Baker Baker Mayfield would get the city of New Orleans. Michael Thomas and the receivers there with Alvin Kamara. I mean, there are some there's some overhanging problems with Kamara, the legal process there. There's no real owner. There's not a lot of stability in New Orleans ever since Breeze and Sean Payton have left. But that's a team that needs a quarterback, as Jameis is a free agent, and obviously Taysom and Simeon aren't cutting it. So that's a possibility. You get Mayfield, you put him in the dome. I think that's definitely a possibility. And then you look at the Houston Texans, and especially if the Watson trade goes to Cleveland, Baker Mayfield, first overall pick. I think he has more arm talent than Davis Mills, can be more accurate, more dynamic of a player than Davis Mills. So I would look at Baker Mayfield going back home to his home state of Texas. I know that the roster isn't that competitive, but he gets Pep Hamilton, a good offensive coordinator. And also, it's going to be interesting to see with the draft picks, maybe Baker Mayfield will be a long-term guy. And ironically, if I'm Baker Mayfield and I'm thinking about this decision, I believe that actually if Nick Caserio really believes in Baker Mayfield, I look at that AFC South division. And in the AFC South, you have Ryan Tannehill as a quarterback that's proven that, he's struggled. Derrick Henry's getting older. So that team in Tennessee, I believe, is going to get a little bit worse in the coming years. Then you have Jacksonville, and Houston could flat out beat Jacksonville with Mayfield this year. And then the other team in that division will be the team that we just discussed, the Indianapolis Colts. Again, like a pretty good AFC team, not completely unbeatable. So you look at that division, and then obviously compared to the NFC South, Mayfield, if I were Baker Mayfield, I would look to Atlanta with Arthur Smith, and I would even sit behind Matt Ryan because I trust Arthur Smith a lot. I don't know what's going on with the ownership. I don't know what's going on with Carmichael and Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen was kind of a failed head coach first time out there. You kind of have to see if Dennis has a rejuvenation in his role in New Orleans. So if I'm thinking for Baker Mayfield, I'm actually thinking the Houston Texans. Now, I know that people will say either Indianapolis or Carolina, but Carolina, they don't really have a stable coaching staff. It's a good defensive roster, but is Matt Rule going to be there a while? And then David Tepper, who's a very impulsive owner, is David Tepper really going to trust you? But you look at Houston, they've stuck it out with Matt Schaub a very long time. New Orleans is a city I think that Baker Mayfield can play, and it's a smaller market, so I think that for him that's kind of dealt with some turbulence lately. He goes down to New Orleans. He can really captivate that city. It's a smaller town just like Norman, Oklahoma. So I think New Orleans is a fine fit. But if I'm Baker Mayfield, I'm trying to think here. I know that the Colts give you the best chance to win a ring, but like I just said, they're impulsive. They just got rid of Carson Wentz. Their coach is on a little bit of a hot seat. Your expectations incredibly high. If I'm Baker Mayfield, I'm actually thinking the best spot for you might be the Houston Texans. You get Nick Caserio. If they really believe in you, they might offer you a long-term deal. You got to go somewhere where you could get a 3 or 4 year deal to be their quarterback. Maybe it's Indy. Maybe it's the Houston Texans. Then after that, I would say that there's a little bit of uncertainty with the Saints. And it's pretty much 3 teams. Carolina, I don't think is a good spot for Baker. I think that David Tepper wants a more dynamite A-list quarterback, and Mayfield needs to improve his stock after throwing interceptions and having that hurt shoulder. And everybody thinks that the Cleveland Browns roster is ridiculous. But Baker Mayfield, again, I said this in a video yesterday. I think Baker Mayfield is getting mistreated by a lot of the national media. I believe that what he did for Cleveland, although it was a COVID year, winning that playoff game and really getting them back to playing competitive football again, I think that can't be overstated, his presence in Cleveland. And again, I really think that there's a ton of good football left in Baker Mayfield. So, I look at the options at quarterback. You're looking at Houston, you're looking at the Colts, and you are also looking at Houston, Colts, and New Orleans. I really think Cleveland, too, interestingly, if they're going to trade Mayfield, they're going to probably trade him to Houston because, Indianapolis is still a rival of the Cleveland Browns. So it's looking like actually the Colts are going to settle on Jimmy G. That allows you the Saints. That allows you Houston. And Atlanta is a dark horse for Baker Mayfield. I don't think Vegas is going to get involved in the sweepstakes, even though it's been rumored that McDaniels has liked Baker Mayfield. So it's going to be fun with Mayfield. We're going to break it all down here on Slaughterhouse Sports. Below in the comments, you guys can weigh in. Where do you think Baker Mayfield would be best suited to play his future destination, his future football? Leave that down below in the comment section. Alrighty, guys, thank you for watching.